If they have persecuted me, they will persecute you. Whoever by words, either spoken or written, or by visible representation, or by any imputation, innuendo, or insinuation, directly or indirectly defiles the sacred name of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, shall be punished with death or imprisonment for life, and shall also be liable to fine.
I'm writing from my prison cell in Sheikhupura, Pakistan. These are the last days or even hours of my life. That's what I was told by the court that sentenced me to death. I fear not only for my own life, but also for the lives of my husband and children. Because of me, my whole family has been sentenced. My name is Asia Bibi. I'm nobody, as the local women say around here, in Itanwali, a tiny village in Punjab province in central Pakistan. I haven't killed or robbed anyone, but according to the law of my country, I have done something much worse. I have blasphemed. I'm a Christian and I believe in my God, but everyone should be free to choose what to believe in. I want to finally explain everything. I want to shout out the truth. Have you met Sidra?
No.
No, she's married now.
Oh, we don't check.
I've been interested in France 24 TV channel since its very beginning. Its mission was to bring the news from all over the world, and I've always been interested in international politics. So I applied for a job there and was offered the position of news anchor. I accepted it, knowing that given my previous experience, I'd be soon covering international conflicts firsthand. Then, after 8 months, my editor proposed I set up our office in Pakistan. I immediately said yes, and before the summer of 2008, I went to Islamabad. I covered events in Pakistan for 4 years. In a way, I felt Pakistani because I no longer lived in France. I wasn't disappointed. You can learn a lot there, and it's a country full of surprises.
Given us the courage. We know how to pull the trigger. We know how to behead a blasphemer. We are the protectors of the dignity of the Holy Prophet. Allah has honored us with courage and the power to strangle blasphemers, to cut out their tongues. We can riddle their bodies with bullets. And nobody can stop us under any law. The blasphemer's punishment is only death.
I think it's the power of violence. The power of violence is like in a classroom in any university in the world. You think of a classroom with 60 students, now you enter one with a machine gun. And everybody will do whatever that guy says. And if somebody tries to say anything and shoots the first one, all the others will just follow command. So unfortunately, I used to think of Pakistan as a country that is, in this moment, is somehow kidnapped. It cannot show all the goodness it has. You have to be living there to see it. For the eyes of an outsider, it's very hard to imagine to what extent can Pakistan be part of your heart. But I've been living there for 11 years, and I can assure you that in very few places on this earth I have known the goodness, and I have known the human quality I have found in Pakistani people. The Pakistani people are the ones who are suffering these fundamentalists. Let us not forget it. The people who are getting killed are Pakistanis. The people who cannot live at peace are Pakistanis. The security guards who are killed at airports, at bus stations, or the innocent people who are killed in a market are both Christians and Muslims, Pakistanis.
Dozens of Christian worshippers were killed in Pakistan on Sunday as two suicide bombers blew themselves up among worshippers.
More than 50 people are reported dead and dozens more have been wounded in a suicide attack on Pakistan's border with India.
The attack occurred at the historic All Saints Church in Peshawar as worshippers left church following Sunday Mass. The bomb disposal squad head said each suicide vest contained at least 6 kilograms of high explosives and ball bearings to maximize casualties. The two attackers detonated their vests within seconds of each other as they stood among the crowds.
A senior Pakistani Taliban commander has claimed responsibility for the blast, which happened after a daily ceremony at the Wagah border crossing that always attracts crowds.
Obviously, I had to cover the Taliban's terrorism, bin Laden, etc. I was also lucky because my editor gave me a free hand to deal with social issues, daily life. So I could discover the Pakistan that is relatively unknown to the outsiders. Now we are joining Anne-Isabelle Tollet in Islamabad. Good morning. We've just watched your report. First, tell us how you managed to get this interview. Well, it took me a month. First, I asked one of my sources here in Islamabad to find a militant, a Taliban or an Al-Qaeda member, who would agree to be interviewed by a foreign TV channel.
These days, the international community is following with great concern the plight of Christians in Pakistan, who are often victims of violence or discrimination. Today I express my feelings of spiritual closeness to Ms. Asia Bibi and her family, and I ask that she be released as soon as possible.
As usual, I was skimming through the local papers, and in one of them I noticed a small item. It really wasn't front-page news. It was about a woman condemned to death for blasphemy. I suggested to my editor we do a live coverage of this, as this had been the first time a woman was sentenced to death for blasphemy. Apparently, her only fault was that she had drunk a glass of water from a well belonging to Muslims.
Listeners, we are very polite people. We are peace-loving people. But we can't tolerate disrespect and blasphemy of our holy prophet. It gives us unbearable pain. No blasphemer can be left alive in Pakistan.
Luckily, at the time, I was very close with the Shahbaz Bhatti, the then Christian minister for minorities in Pakistan. He knew me well, so he asked if I could cover this story so that the West might learn about it. Thanks to him, I had easy access to all information. To her family, her in-laws, the place where it all happened. This was important because at the time it was all very unclear. The information was scarce. And when the foreign journalists wanted to find out about anything, the authorities would deny us access to any information. Could you explain to France 24 viewers what blasphemy is according to the Pakistani constitution?
According to Article 295B, everyone who defiles the Holy Quran is to be sentenced to life imprisonment. According to Article 295C, if you do or think anything that defames the Holy Prophet Muhammad, you will be sentenced to death.
He will punish with the death penalty.
I suggest we go to prison. I interview Asia Bibi, record her testimony, and write it down in the first person. And this was what we did. Together with her husband Ashik, we went to prison many times, to the prison she was then kept in, which was in Sheikhpura near Lahore. Before each visit, I would say to Ashik, listen, today I want you to ask her what she wants to say to the rest of the world, what her message is. It was necessary to identify with Asia Bibi completely in order to be able to write in her name. My dear Ashik, my dear children, you are facing a terrible ordeal. This morning I was sentenced to death. I confess that I cried when I heard the verdict, but deep down I was not surprised. I did not expect either mercy or courage from the judges who have been under pressure from the Muslims and religious fanatics. Ashik, you know this, just as you know that I am incapable of violence and cruelty. But sometimes I can be stubborn. As for my trial, it was quickly over. I was condemned to death in a matter of minutes. I do not know yet when they will hang me, but do not worry. My dearest, I will go with my head held high, fearlessly, because I will be with our Lord and the Blessed Virgin Mary, who will take me close to them. My good husband, keep raising our children as we would have done it together. Ashik, my beloved children, I'm going to leave you forever, but I will love you for all eternity.
In 2010, I went to Sheikhpura jail and meeting with Asia Bibi. We just asked for half an hour meeting, but it takes 3 hours meeting. She was happy to say something after a long time. Nobody was asked Asia for their defense. When I was meeting her, she said after 18 months of imprisonment, she was given a letter with the death sentence. Nobody was there to ask what was happened. This is totally against the law. If there is a law, then there must be a justice.
Nobody told us what had happened. But after a few days, those ladies said that Asia blasphemed against Muhammad. I asked Asia, did you say anything like this? And she said, no. Never.
We came to the Falsa plantation, and there we saw 10 women surrounding Asia. They made a false allegation against Asia. They said she had blasphemed against the Prophet Muhammad. It took 1 week to accuse Asia and send her to prison.
She got arrested 5 days after the so-called incident. They said that she had blasphemed against the Prophet Muhammad.
Yes, they captured her on the plantation and took her to a Muslim man's house. From there, they called a police officer who took Aisha away. The situation was very dangerous at this time, and Christians in our village panicked. They were laughing and clapping their hands. They made fun of us and insulted us.
She was beaten by people who captured her when she was working on the field. They took her to a place in the village, and they beat our kids afterwards. They beat our daughters, who told me that when their mother asked for drinking water, they gave her urine instead. No, she didn't admit she had said anything. They forced her to say she had. Even in the police station, they also made her say, yes, I blasphemed. They said, accept Islam and you will be free. Marry someone else and leave your family. Everyone is happy. Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Let's all come together and clap our hands for the glory of Jesus. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. For he has founded it upon the seas. And established it upon the rivers.
In 3 hours meeting, even a single time, Asia Bibi did not disclose any kind of willingness that she was mistakenly stated these words. She all the time denied. She said, I never said these words. She said, I was blandly involved in this case. And even she has nothing to do with the blasphemy.
The problem is that this law can be used against you, and enough that a few people gather and make the accusation on you, that even if you have nothing to do about it, that they will bring you to court, and they can provoke the anger of the people. They can play with the sentiments and the feeling, and they can provoke a situation that later on, well, everybody can regret.
Asia's troubles began here in her village. Hers was the only Christian household. She was working in the fields alongside local Muslim women. They claimed she insulted the Prophet Muhammad. She says she was falsely accused to settle an old score. Human rights groups say that's often the case with the blasphemy law.
This story is so shocking that you need to be familiar with all the details to understand how it is possible to be sentenced to death for drinking a glass of water. It's just incredible. She knew immediately she would get a death sentence, because even if you are not sentenced by the court, even if the court does not kill you, people will. The accusation of blasphemy is already a verdict. If you're accused, you won't be safe in Pakistan anymore. When I first came to Itanwali, my initial impressions were not great. I was not well received. I went there on my own, just with my Pakistani interpreter. People did not trust me, not because I was a woman, but because I had come from the West, and I was interested in Asia Bibi's story. So when I arrived at the village, I was immediately surrounded by children. I started looking for Asia Bibi's house. I wanted to film it, enter it, and see how she lived. People were soon put on their guard. They started throwing pebbles and rotten oranges at me. They were openly hostile. I quickly asked for a meeting with the local mullah.
When we went to the police station, they asked us who witnessed it. I gave my name because if we show some effort for Prophet Muhammad, Allah will bless us more. I became a witness because I wanted to give some effort for Prophet Muhammad. I didn't listen to those words, but in front of me, she confessed that she had blasphemed.
The mullah agreed for an interview about Asia Bibi. During the interview, he was very hypocritical. He said that he could not repeat Asia Bibi's blasphemies because that would make him blasphemous. So the interview was pointless. He was not there at the time of the incident, but he was positive Asia Bibi had committed blasphemy.
If the High Court frees Asia, what would be your reaction? If they free her, then we'll protest in the whole of Pakistan. We will sacrifice our lives for the blasphemy law. Inshallah.
At the village mosque, they want the death sentence carried out. The local imam says he cried with joy when Asia was sentenced. He told us she'll be made to pay, one way or the other.
If the law punishes someone for blasphemy and that person is pardoned or released, then we will take the law into our own hands.
For now, Asia remains behind bars here at Shekhapura jail, where she's being held in isolation.
The cleric, the man who had accused her, was saying that she had committed blasphemy in the honor of Holy Prophet. And that person did not listen to it. He stated this in the FIR, but some other told him that Asia has committed this blasphemy. In normal cases, such evidences are not acceptable, and such version of the complainant goes in favor of the accused.
It has a history. It was long and known discussion. The owner of Khalsa Garden, the Berry Garden, he was very noble to her. He was very kind and also gave her chance to hire some women for the picking of falsa. So this was also again a jealousy among the co-workers, that how a Christian lady can have a leading role or can be in charge of laborers' women. You know, here in our country, we the Christian are nobody and nothing against the Muslim majority community.
Even if they want to kill us, we will always be faithful to the words of the Prophet Muhammad. I prefer to die than allow you to record me.
Asma and Mafia, the two ladies became annoyed from Asia Bibi. They used abusive language against Asia. It was unbelievable for Asia that why these ladies are using slang language against her. After a few while, these two women started shouting that Asia Bibi has passed some derogatory remarks against Prophet Muhammad. Because this was the only chance for them to involve Asia or give her a lesson. There is no eyewitnesses there, only these two ladies.
Asia found herself alone in front of all these Muslim women accusing her of committing a terrible crime. And she, in good faith, said, "After all, the Quran doesn't say Christians are forbidden to use the same vessels as Muslims. I haven't done anything wrong. I don't understand."
Prosecutors say Asia Bibi insulted Islam and the Prophet Muhammad. They say the alleged incident happened when she was picking berries in this field in the town of Itanwali, just about 2 hours west of Lahore. Court records show Asia was sharing a bucket of drinking water with fellow workers, but when she dipped her cup, her fellow workers refused the water, saying it had been touched by a non-Muslim woman.
After this interview, I went to Asia Bibi's house. I wasn't welcomed by the local women, by her neighbors. They were glaring at me. They couldn't understand my interest in this Christian woman because, for them, she was completely worthless. So they were baffled by my interest. They all said they wanted her to die since she was a threat to Islam. They said that her death would be a relief for them. This visit in Itanwali was really crucial for me. It enabled me to describe her life there and what happened on that day in the field. I wasn't there at the time, but when I saw these women who, talking about Asia Bibi, were so full of anger and extreme hatred, who said she deserved to die, I could easily imagine what had happened on the field, especially that I was very familiar with the situation of Christian communities in Pakistan. Before Asia Bibi's story, I reported on the plight of the Christian minority in Pakistan many times.
On the first day, villagers beat Asia Bibi brutally. They put some leather rope in her neck, so pushing her like dog and beating her brutally. From here the thing started. It was illegal act. So these things lead this situation.
Qari Muhammad Salam said he is not sure if she is released. Nothing can be said about her security. Any Muslim can attack her and kill her. And the other man, namely Abdul Rashid, he said if she is released by the court, they will lodge protest, they will lay their lives. They prefer being killed in this movement, but resist the court judgment in her favor.
Asia Bibi is a Christian. The women argued. Mafia Sitar and her sisters say they were there and heard Asia's insults. She said your Muhammad had worms in his mouth before he died, Sitar told us. A crude way of saying Muhammad was no prophet. Should Asia Bibi be hanged? In her hometown, the verdict to that? A unanimous yes.
Asia and other women used to work at this garden, which is now removed, and this crop is grown. These belong to Idris, who is also one of the witnesses before the court against Asia. When Asia tried to go and fetch water for them, they stopped her. And they said, no, we won't drink water brought by you. There was an altercation between Asia and all other women. All other women were Muslims and they had one version. On the other hand, Asia was one, and she supposedly tried to defend herself. After that, many people gathered in the village. Asia was pressurized by the mob as there she was single.
They put fake accusations on me. In the past, we had a conflict about a certain sewerage issue, and they stole my goat and did other damage. When they brought me to the police station, they were rude, slapped me 4 or 5 times. When they brought me into the village from Falsa Garden, they tied a belt around my neck, dragged me, and tried to kill me. The situation got worse because Asia answered back, instead of lowering her head in remorse and saying, "I'm sorry, I'll never do that again." As a result, the word blasphemy was shot at her. It was enough for it to be uttered just once, and the wall of silence surrounded Asia Bibi. And that was enough to accuse and stigmatize her. This word alone meant that the mullah had to intervene, that there had to be an official complaint filed against her by the police.
If we observe and read witnesses of those women, there is a fickleness, change of statements in that which the court totally ignored. But she is given the maximum punishment which she can be given.
When this fight took place, I told her to go away. After 2 or 3 days, people started gathering together. On that day, she came to me and she asked me for help to deal with the issue. But I said, "No, I cannot do this because you have insulted the Prophet." I hadn't heard it myself. But when she came to me, she accepted she had blasphemed.
My children, do not lose your courage nor your faith in Jesus Christ. There are better days waiting for you, and when I'm up there in the arms of the Savior, I shall always watch over you. Ashik, I have loved you since the first day, and the 22 years we have spent together are proof of that. I have always been grateful that I could marry you for love instead of having an arranged marriage, as it is usual in our province. Our characters were well made, but now there is nothing we can do. Weak people have blocked our faith. You are alone now with the fruit of our love. Keep our family brave and proud. You know why I'm going to die, and I hope that you won't be angry with me for leaving you soon, because I'm innocent and have done nothing of the things I'm accused of.
How do we kill blasphemers? With prayers or with bullets? How will he die? Speak up. Bullets. We don't commit suicide attacks against the army. We don't target the police. But anyone who defends blasphemers will pay for it.
They came to us and asked where my mother was, and we didn't tell them. But they kept asking, so we told them my mother was on the field. And they went there and beat her. tearing up her clothes. When they brought my mother from the field, we tried to stop them. I held my mother's hand, but they pulled us apart. My mother was crying. I held her hand and we changed her clothes. We all went to the place they were taking my mother to. She asked for some water to drink, but they said no. They were beating my mother seriously. They even threw me against the wall, and when I asked for water, they said, "There's no water for Christian dogs."
They are intolerant as well as violent. They are interested to kill the person without knowing that he or she is guilty or not.
Many people, governors, lawyers, called me to say I should be discreet and cautious. They said it was a very delicate matter, and it could end badly for me. They advised me to abandon the story. I understood their warnings because I had already lived in Pakistan for 3 years, and I knew that this country was capable of everything. I knew something might happen to me. For example, a bad car accident. So I informed everyone that I was letting go of it, that I was no longer interested in Asia Bibi, as there was no chance for me to get to visit her in prison. The news spread very quickly. The lawyers and others called me and said it was a wise decision, that the sooner I lost interest in this matter, the better. I kept pursuing the story, meeting with Asia's family in Lahore. But it was all very discreet because no one could learn I was still at it. I understood that all those warnings had really been threats. In fact, ever since the book was published in France, I was promoting it quite heavily in the media. There was a dispatch by AFP and the news got to Pakistan. One day, some members of the religious group Jamaat-e-Islami came to the house where I lived at the time and wanted to see me. They claimed I had written a book against Islam, that I had criticized the blasphemy laws, and therefore I was to end like Shahbaz Bhatti and Salman Taseer.
Already, Islamic groups are out on the streets, promising anarchy if Asia is freed. Her case has provoked some debate about reforming the blasphemy law, but the government would have to face down the hardliners. There seems little appetite for that. Her family, too, is at risk, forced into hiding, so we met them after dark. Her husband, Ashik, is exhausted from being on the run, from guarding the children at night, and from threatening phone calls.
Now the time at present, it's difficult to defend such kind of case. There is a recent example, one of our colleague, Mr. Rashid Rahman Khan, he was following up a case of blasphemy since last 6 months. 2 unidentified attackers came in his office and shoot him. They spread or they disseminate some pamphlets by this warning that if anyone try to defend the case of blasphemy in the court, must be killed. This is a sign and this is a message from the religious extremists. So we are afraid. He was a very good lawyer as well as human rights activist and known to everyone in the city of Multan, where Asia Bibi is confining now.
The problem is that there is fear. The problem is that the violence seems to have always their way around. And therefore, the fight is not so much for Asia Bibi's freedom, but as it is for making a legal system that is fair for innocent people.
Today we have with us Asia's husband, Ashik Masih. He is from the village of Chaktin in the Nankana Sahib district, 80 kilometers away from Lahore city.
When I took their interview, the case was very fresh, and many people were still hunting them also, and they were also hiding and running from one place to another. They were terribly afraid because they were harassed, no? They were followed by different people, so they were hiding. The younger girl said she is afraid to go to school because the other children make questions about the mother. So where are you safe? And who can you say, okay, this man is safe, this is unsafe? You are afraid of everybody. Anybody can kill you.
All extremists and all the Taliban want to keep these laws as they are. The Pakistani government, even though it wanted to make them slightly less strict, very quickly understood the danger. It was threatened by extremists, religious parties, and the Taliban, who said, if you abolish or amend these laws, we promise you there will be chaos all over Pakistan. In Pakistan, protests are infrequent, but when it comes to defending death penalty for blasphemy, hundreds of thousands of Pakistanis show huge determination. Here in Islamabad, but also all over the country, you can hear angry slogans. Ever since it was suggested that the law condemning everyone suspected of insulting Islam be amended,
We are peaceful people, but if someone is looking for us, they will surely find us. We are lucky to be good Muslims, but I need help to make sure our country is also following the right path of Islam.
If you are accused of having blasphemed against Quran, obviously you inflate the heat of the people to the point that they will not think anymore, because they are people ready to die for their faith. Not only ready to die, they're people ready to kill. Therefore, you are touching the most intimate of their livelihood, that which is a non-negotiable for them. Because of their faith, they are ready to kill even a daughter, even a husband, a wife, to betray a close relative, to betray for us, but to be faithful to their faith for them.
Human rights groups have long blamed Pakistan's blasphemy laws for persecution and violence against religious minorities, like this attack last year on a Christian village and recent bombings of minority Muslim mosques. Activists say the government has refused to amend the law for fear of a backlash from Islamist groups and their followers, who deem scrapping the law as un-Islamic.
She became a symbol of the fight against blasphemy laws. Asia's case became the focal point in all the discussions about these laws. Should they be reformed, abandoned, etc.?
Anybody who will protect or defend the blasphemer, he is also the blasphemer. So we are blamed as blasphemers if we stand behind the blasphemer.
In Pakistan, the blasphemy law is misusing against anyone, any Christian especially. Christians cannot speak in front of the Muslims. We are under pressure. We are minority in Pakistan. We don't have the equal rights, whatever the Muslim has. Every Christians know in nowadays the blasphemy law is like a weapon for the Christians. So every single Christian wanted to save himself, for his family, for his children, for his business, to not to involve in this case and not to say anything, not even to ask for their own rights. Only they prefer to silence. As we said something, as we say something, it could be used against us, our own words used against us, and charge the blasphemy.
People have been assassinated, people have been lynched for this blasphemy law. There have been chapters wherein prisoners accused of blasphemy have been killed in jail. They have been killed on their way to jail. They have been killed outside the tribunal, even after being declared innocent. So once this accusation of blasphemy is upon an individual in Pakistan, it means his life, her life is in danger. Then the government of Pakistan has to reach a moment wherein they will be able to tackle it.
Suleiman Tasir was governor. He was killed. Shahbaz Bhatti was the minority minister. He was killed. Both are the key person of the government. They were killed. Why? Because they both were in favor of Asia Bibi. Whoever, either I, either judge, either lawyer, or anybody, whoever will be in favor of Asia Bibi, caught by the radicals, caught by the fundamentals.
You have to understand that Islam permeates the whole life of society in Pakistan. Therefore, when you touch anything that has to do with Islam, you are somehow provoking a reaction. So when the local Maulvi, when the local Muslim cleric tells the community that a person has blasphemed against the Quran, obviously the community follows.
Pakistan's Christians want better protection from attacks like this. More than 170 homes in a Christian neighbourhood in Lahore were set on fire at the weekend after a Muslim man accused a Christian of blasphemy.
We have been destroyed. What wrong had we done? We had done nothing wrong.
It was extremely cruel. It was inhumane. We've been made homeless without any reason. We didn't do anything wrong. We committed no blasphemy. We've done nothing.
With all humility, I can say that it is partly thanks to the publication of Blasphemy that Asia is still alive. The book was published in more than 12 countries, and it provoked a huge international outcry. I was given the opportunity to speak in front of the Human Rights Council in Geneva. I was invited to the Security Council during the UN summit to talk about Asia Bibi's case. Because the book deeply moved the whole international community, the Pakistani government was under huge pressure. I know that the then President, Mr. Zardari, called the superintendent of the prison Asia was in and said, "The case of this woman is extremely delicate. Do what you can to keep her alive." If she dies, we will be in trouble. We will have to justify ourselves in front of the international community. We really do not need such troubles right now. Deal with this in your own way, but she has to stay alive. But now, if someone asks for forgiveness and kindness...
Even if they ask for forgiveness from the core of their heart, it will not be acceptable, as Muhammad is not here to forgive.
But he taught us forgiveness, mercy, and human rights.
We can forgive only our personal insult, but not Muhammad's.
I will show you Asia Bibi's appeal for forgiveness.
But I don't have the right to forgive her, because she had insulted Muhammad, and only he can do it.
I think Asia Bibi is an extremely courageous woman. I'm not sure how many of us would survive what she has gone through. Daily humiliations, atrocious conditions suitable for an animal, not for a human being. Despite all this, she has not lost her faith. She has always believed she would be released. She has never ceased to believe in God, in the justice system of her country, but also in divine justice.
This is our clerics behind all this situation, and people follow them blindly. Whatever they are saying, it is right. That's why taking action against blasphemers, they consider as a religious obligation.
For the Prophet we offer our lives. For the Prophet we offer our lives. For the Prophet we offer our lives.
Here in our Muslim seminaries, madrasas, they are preaching hatred against non-Muslim citizens of the country. This is happening. When anybody will ask, they will not say anything. They say, no, we are doing like this. We have no problem with any religion.
A Christian couple were allegedly burnt alive in an industrial kiln in Pakistan on Tuesday after angry workers discovered the Christians had set fire to several verses of the Quran. Shabaz Maseh, 26, and his wife Shama Bibi, 24, were attacked by colleagues at the brick factory where they worked in Punjab province. A mob of several dozen attacked the building where they were, said Gil. They broke their legs so they couldn't run, and then threw them onto the fire. Punjab province is home to the majority of Pakistan's around 4 million Christians. Gil said that word got out over the weekend that several verses of the Quran were among items burned by Bibi after they were left behind by her deceased father. Setting fire to the religious text is considered blasphemy in Pakistan. While technically punishable by death under strict Islamic law, it's more common for vigilante mobs to take matters into their own hands.
There is an international pressure, but the government has also very strong pressure from within the country, from the fundamentalists. So the government is under terrible pressure. They do not know what to do.
Punish the blasphemers! Behead them! Punish the blasphemers! Behead them! Punish the blasphemers! Behead them!
Session judges and magistrates who are sitting as a judge in the lower courts, they are afraid. They will always give sentence whether guilty or not guilty because they have a public pressure. You see, I have been going to courts also a number of times following these cases. There are a number of fundamentalists standing in the court. So there is a pressure on the judges also. And we have the history that one judge who acquitted one Christian, he was shot right after the court session. And he's dead. So all other judges are afraid. So in the lower courts, they will always prove that the person is guilty. And Asia case is just the same. And as the case goes up, they will always drag and prolong the case without giving any sentence. There will be never decision. So there is not a single case where the case is proven guilty.
Even if you feel, or even if you know that she should be free, her freedom would bring other problems to any present government in Pakistan.
You can see the central jail where the Asia Bibi is. We, Ashik and the children, and just going to see inside to the prison. Then you must stay in the car.
I say it clearly. If the government is listening, it should write it down. Let that dog out, and you will see that even his body will turn beyond recognition. We are the slaves of the Holy Prophet and ready to die for him. He who is the friend of the blasphemer is a traitor.
Because the verses of Holy Book, they say there is one God, which is Allah Almighty, and the last prophet is his last messenger. So give him full respect. If you don't give him full respect, it means the message which is given by him to us, you will not do any respect to that message. So this is the basic belief of Muslims, that they have to respect the personality of last prophet, peace be upon him.
Asia is a woman suffering more than anybody, I think, under this blasphemy law. Even Pakistan has lost one of its governors, one of its ministers, only for favoring Asia Bibi. These are the glaring examples of public pressure, pressure of majority, pressure of clerics. Here was a religious cleric who openly declared Salman Taseer as deserving death for favoring Asia Bibi and declaring blasphemy law as a black law. And I think that statement of that cleric was behind killing of Salman Taseer.
When my father heard about this, he was the governor of Punjab at the time, and he decided to find out why this woman had been sentenced. And when he went and met with her in jail, she was so poor, and she had covered her face because she was so petrified. And my father was very moved, and there was no evidence to prove that she was guilty at all. And he felt very strongly that this was an unjust law, that it's being used to discriminate. And thousands of people have been sentenced unfairly because of this law, and they are just languishing in prison.
I'm starting in the name of Allah, who is merciful. I have come to meet Asia Bibi. She's been in prison for the last 18 months. I think her punishment is inhuman. She made an appeal to President Asif Ali Zardari that her punishment should be forgiven. Hopefully, the president will forgive her for the sake of humanity.
He said she is innocent lady and asked her to write an application for the mercy. She wrote, and unexpectedly, just he said, this is the black law which could be changed as soon as possible. These are the remarks of the Suleiman Taseer, is cause of death.
Salman Taseer is a traitor. He wants to forgive a woman who abused the Holy Prophet. He also deserves the death sentence. According to the Holy Quran, we must kill Asia Bibi. Kill her. Kill her.
Salman had a lot of humanity about him. He had a lot of humanity about him. And he was a fearless kind of man. I had no problems. Occasionally I would tell him that, Salman, you better be careful. And he would say, "Any partner, don't worry, things will be fine." And, this happened. But, while I'm in no position to comment on Salman Taseer and how Allah will treat him.
Salman Taseer, if you have any respect for the Prophet, then admit that she did blaspheme Muhammad. And we won't accept it if you forgive her. No Muslim can tolerate people saying anything against the Prophet. They should be killed.
Suleiman Taseer don't know about what could be happen. He just came out of the hotel after having a dinner. As he was near to the car, the security person shot at him and he was killed in the same place.
This anger has cost the life of a top politician. Salman Taseer, the governor of Punjab, was assassinated a few days ago at the market in Islamabad. His own bodyguard shot him 27 times for defending a Christian, Asia Bibi, sentenced to death for blasphemy.
Who killed him?
Qadri, Mumtaz Qadri. He was the security guard of Suleiman Taseer. Might be he was the agent of any fundamentals, any Muslim organizations, any radicals, and he included in the security of, special security of Suleiman Taseer.
Today I sang for the Prophet, and my Prophet loved it. O Prophet, peace be upon him. O Allah, take care of those who love you.
He's hero. As on very next day he was produced before the court, many lawyers showered flowers on him as terming him their hero. And even now there is a movement by some religious clerics. That movement is a movement for release of Mumtaz Qadri.
The Mumtaz Qadri, killer of Governor Taseer, was also sentenced for that. The next day, his court was attacked by the lawyers as well as other people. And now the judge is in hiding and not living in Pakistan.
On the outskirts of Islamabad, the father of the killer was cheered by the crowd.
We all love our prophet. Today we bring flowers to Mumtaz Qadri's family because we want to show he is not alone.
Oh, I know Salman very well. Salman was a very, very close friend of mine. I know Salman's family extremely well. And can you imagine that none of the clerics, a lot of whom are government servants, were willing to lead his funeral prayers? And it became a problem. Who would lead his funeral prayers? Because everybody was very scared. Here in Pakistan, this is 90% of the time when something like this of Salman happens, they may think that he has committed blasphemy.
Obviously, when it comes to my father, I would speak up and I would always defend his views. I would like to, for as many people as possible, to know that my father was innocent. He did not say anything that was even vaguely blasphemous. He did not insult our religion. He did not insult our prophet in any way. He simply stood up for a defenseless and poor Christian woman who was being targeted unfairly. So I mean, I'm not an activist, but of course I will stand up for my father, as many times as I can.
The most dangerous thing is you do not know who to trust. You can't trust your own security. Somebody gets up from within your own security. They have all got guns. And he shoots you. But I think that it is very possible that just for his standing up for Asia Bibi and losing his life, Allah may forgive him all the things that Salman did.
A lot of people said to me that, you're making a mistake. Don't do it. And I said no. If I don't stand up, then other people who think like me won't be able to stand up either.
I was deeply shocked by the death of Salman Taseer, who was a Muslim. I realized that they're ready to kill their own Muslim brothers in the name of these laws. They decided that by criticizing these laws and taking Asia's side, he acted against Islam. This also shocked me because I understood that this was much more than just a sensitive topic in Pakistan. This is not just something people don't like to talk about. The blasphemy laws actually kill people in many different ways. If you are condemned, you will be killed, either by extremists or by the crowd. In this country, when it comes to blasphemy, lives are at risk.
Salman Taseer was a brave man. A man with principles, and all his killers. We will not let them go, and we will fight them in court. It's my appeal to the government. The one who gave the fatwa against Salman Taseer should be brought under investigation, so those people who are on their hit list will be saved.
Today, because the daughter of Asia Bibi were with us, jail authority gave us the double time. So we spent almost 1 hour with Asia Bibi. She is physically fit and happy, and asked, please do prayer for her and do something for the freedom of her as soon as possible. When we go inside, we have a security check in 3 times till the reach of the main office of the jail authority. Just to getting the permission, we got some problems there because accordingly, only the Ashik and the daughters allowed. For me, we have had a problem to ask permission, and finally I got the permission to see the Asia Bibi.
When I found out about Taseer's death, I immediately called Shahbaz Bhatti. He was also devastated, and he said, "It will be tough." To which I replied, "Shahbaz, now I have only you. Be careful." And he said, "I know, I know."
When 6 months ago I campaigned to change the blasphemy law, I got a fatwa by the religious extremists that if I will propose any changes, I will be beheaded and I will be declared blasphemer.
He knew how delicate this matter was, especially after his colleague Salman Taseer was assassinated. I kept telling him, "This is dangerous, you should keep a low profile. Your car is not armored, you have to install bulletproof windows. You are the only government minister without them. One day you will regret it. You can't think you're immortal because you defend everyone. Don't think that if your actions are noble, this gives you full protection." He answered, "I know all this. But if I do not engage myself fully with this matter, if I'm not 100% in this fight, I would have to leave the government. I'm not afraid. I believe in this fight and I'm going to bring it to the end, even if it means death for me."
Mr. Bhatti, we forgot one question in the interview. Your life is threatened. By who? And what sort of threats are you receiving?
I want to share that I believe in Jesus Christ, who has given his own life for us. I know what is the meaning of cross, and I'm following of the cross. So these threats and these warnings cannot change my opinion and principles. I will prefer to die for my principle and for the justice of my community rather to compromise on these threats.
Thank you.
Armed men had peppered a car carrying Shahbaz Bhatti with bullets. A spokesman said Bhatti was dead by the time he arrived at Shifa Hospital, though police added that his driver escaped unharmed. Pamphlets found at the scene of the killing warned the same fate awaits anyone opposing the country's blasphemy laws, which impose the death penalty for insulting Islam. The leaflets were signed by Al-Qaeda and the Pakistani Taliban movement in Punjab province.
My mom said that that day, early in the morning, he always prayed for half an hour in his own room. After prayer, he went to my mom, and my mom said that day he was a bit strange. I mean, she was looking a bit worried about my mom. Then it was 10:30, I think, that between 10 or 11, it was a small rainy day, and my mom said that he left and he went away. And she started hearing voice, just something, a rumor that something is happening, like when you fire a lot of firework you have. Car of my brother was stopping there, and the driver was somewhere hidden there. When my brother was that time bleeding from all the body, and he was sitting there, and there was Bible on one side, and then they brought him in a hospital where they found him dead. He worked for very poor people. He was the first to defend Asia Bibi. He raised his question about Asia Bibi. He was moved by the poverty of this woman, innocence of this woman, and she belongs to the most marginalized part of the society. And so young woman, when she is in the prison, he was saying that it is not acceptable.
I call on Lord Jesus that the moving sacrifice of the life of Pakistani minister Shahbaz Bhatti may rekindle in people the courage and commitment to protect religious freedom for all mankind. And in this way, also promote equal dignity for all.
I have to admit that when I learned about it, I was shocked. I was not surprised because even he himself knew he might be killed by religious extremists. But I was shocked and saddened anyway. I thought, now that Shahbaz is no longer here, they've managed to kill everyone who still had the courage to criticize blasphemy laws and defend poor Asia Bibi, who has done absolutely nothing wrong, who just drank a glass of water. Who is going to take over? No one.
Well, first of all, he was my younger brother. We grew up in a very Christian family. And since we grew up in that time environment, our faith, our ideology was purely Christian. And my younger brother, Shahbaz, he had some special love for the people who are persecuted. So he decided at a certain moment in his heart that he has to do something and he has to follow that. But in his main struggle, it was to bring peace in Pakistan, to protect oppressed and marginalized community of Pakistan.
Asia's family, whom I was in contact with, as well as Asia herself, whom I kept in touch through her husband, were devastated when they learned about Shahbaz Bhatti's death. They felt like orphans. They entrusted me with a mission, and in fact, I did not have a choice. They said, "You are the only person we can trust. Only you can support and help us, so please do not abandon us." And so I did it involuntarily, because I'm a journalist, not a Mother Teresa. I do not work for any human rights NGO. I was just doing my journalist job. But when you're confronted with something like this, you have to engage. If you find yourself in such an intense, unique situation, you cannot leave these people just like that. I decided to do it also because I did not want Shahbaz's death to be pointless. So I told myself, I have to fight till the end, publish this book, and do everything I can to secure Asia's release. In this way, his efforts would not have been in vain. So I kept going, also for him. Salman Taseer, governor of Punjab, and Shahbaz Bhatti, the minority minister, were killed because they had the courage to support me. They were murdered by fundamentalists. That's terrible. Even animals are not killed so cruelly. Thinking about their families makes me cry. Thanks to my dearest husband Ashik, thanks to attorneys who are risking their lives by dealing with my case, and thanks to people who have to remain anonymous for their own safety, I can write to you today from my prison cell in which I have been buried alive. I'm asking for your help. Please don't leave me alone. I need you.
Asia Bibi remains in a Pakistani prison since 2009. On November 7, 2010, she was sentenced to death by hanging for blasphemy against Muhammad based on Article 295C of the Pakistan Penal Code. Despite the world's protests and requests for pardon, her situation remains the same, and the sentence can be executed at any time.
If this issue is forgotten, then I think it's more possible that Asia Bibi could be killed in jail, that Asia Bibi could be freed from jail. So put to what could happen if this issue is forgotten, I think in the context of Pakistan, it could be worse for Asia Bibi that the world stops reminding the government that there is an innocent person in one of their jails.
Here to Lahore in Pakistan because we wanted to know how Christians live in this country. They suffer discrimination by law but also by society, and we want to make sure that people in Western world know about it. That law may disappear in the future, but just if Western societies, Western democracies, Western governments keep on putting pressure on Pakistani government. They want to protect human rights, protect freedom of religion, but they will only do it if they feel they have the support of other countries and also of Pakistani society.